Welcome back, folks, and thank you so much for joining us for another soul-driven interview. I'm super excited today to be learning with you about new modalities as I introduce you to Tammy Schoolcraft, a certified biofield tuning practitioner, Holy Fire Karuna Reiki master, and Resonance Biofeedback Specialist. See, I knew I was going to do I knew I was going to butcher something along the way. Welcome, Tammy. So wonderful to have you here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yes, absolutely. So a little bit of background on Tammy. I met her actually through, we've worked together through the Akashic Records. She's also learned about the Akashic Records. And when I realized, oh my gosh, I have this beautiful woman who has these incredible modalities that I know nothing about, I was like, I have to have her on the podcast. And I'm very excited today because she's also going to be providing us with a mini Earth Star and Sun Star group tuning adjustment at the end of today's interview. So make sure that you stick around for that. And also, if you're listening to this, don't forget that you can watch this interview on YouTube as well and get to see our faces. Tammy has like the best hair ever. And so you can also come hang out with us via video. All right, Miss Tammy, let's go ahead and jump in because I have so many questions for you today. But as always, I like to start off with what makes you soul driven?
Ah, I've thought about this and because I know I've listened to your podcast, so I know that's the question that you asked, and I would love to have some, fantastical answer to it. But I think it really boils down to, for me, it's the wellness and health of my family is what has driven me, is what has awakened me over the years. I like to say, or I don't like to say, it's an observation that I feel like for the first 40 years of my life, I was asleep. I was unaware. I was doing the normie things, being the normie at home mom, room mom at school, and giving my kids antibiotics and medications because I have a background in healthcare. Working in pharmacy for 10 years, and I did all of the things that I thought I was supposed to do. And then one day, after children, we all have a catalyst. And when my kids were born, they had health challenges, and I set out on a mission to treat them in a more natural and holistic way. And my eyes became wide open to different modalities and different techniques and different things that I could do that would help benefit us and to make us healthier individuals. And one thing led to another. And after, finding out things about what we were eating that were causing health issues and what we were putting into our bodies, then I came across energy medicine for the emotional component, really, that then can always also help with the physical component. And when I found Reiki, Reiki's a springboard for a lot of people, I think, for a lot of practitioners or people who just, awaken to spirituality and things that are considered woo-woo, and that woo-woo is not really in my vocabulary anymore, because I think that I really am able to take what we've been told is woo and kind of mainstream it. People are able to hear that come from me in a different way. And so that was what kind of started me in this. I never considered opening an office. I really was doing it for my kids. And then I saw how much it benefited them. And the next thing you know, they're grown, they're better, doing fantastic. And I'm doing it for other people and helping other people remember how truly powerful they are, how their bodies are very powerful and can heal themselves. So
I
I
love
guess that's
that.
kind of how it, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's, I feel like in the midst of my work, not only within the spiritual community, but also even when I owned a marketing agency and I would speak to women about their businesses and their families were always such a huge catalyst for starting something new, doing something different, seeing a solution or seeing a problem that needed to be solved, and this being a massive sort of just catalyst. Here we go again. To
Right, yeah.
taking them into something completely new in their life and really opening them up, I think, to more of who they are as well along that path.
Absolutely. I mean, my youngest son is now 18, and I'm grateful to him. I mean, and also my oldest son, who's older, he's 22. But I feel like they both have helped to mold this path for me, or open pathways for me in different ways. My youngest son had ear infections repeatedly shortly after he was born. Nobody ever said, none of the doctors ever said to me, stop dairy. Don't give him any dairy. That can cause him to have ear infections. And there's other things that can cause that as well that I've learned along the way. But we went through years of food sensitivities before gluten was even an issue. Well, it was an issue for a lot of people, but you didn't go around and find gluten-free things like you do now. I went into Costco with my list of things that he couldn't have and just cried as I read every label, because what am I going to feed my child? So, and that's where I learned to make, I had to go back to the basics and learn to cook things, and learn to make ketchup without tomatoes and roasted red peppers instead, and how to make bread without wheat. And one thing just led to another. And I saw there was progress to be made here that was outside of another surgery, because they wanted to do surgery on him for his ears for tubes for a third time and give me another antibiotic. And I was done with that. I said, this is a Band-Aid. It's not helping. And I need to find something else that can help. And I was able to do that through holistic practitioners and other modalities that I never was aware existed before. So that has catalyzed me on that path. And it's just evolved along the way into other magnificent, fantastical modalities of energy medicine.
Yeah. Well, it's such a powerful story. I mean, for me, like, I was diagnosed lactose intolerant as a kid. And quite frankly, dairy didn't affect me, at least in physical ways that, I could really tell, or my parents could really tell growing up. Now, looking back, I see all the signs of how I was being affected, even though it wasn't obvious into
Right.
my early 20s. But my sister has ulcerative colitis, then I ended up getting celiacs and just a number of things. And it's amazing to me that, I mean, the adjustments that we can make with our diet often, like, I now primarily see holistic or functional doctors versus Western doctors. Western medicine holds such a good place. It really, like, if you break a leg, if there are things that
Absolutely.
Western medicine absolutely serves a purpose for. But I loved in your bio this whole take a pill for every ill thing. It's been so frustrating on my journey as well. And I also, you talking about going to the grocery store. I mean, the first time I went to the grocery store after I found out about celiacs and was just trying to find a ketchup, that would work, was like, oh my gosh. And I just remember thinking, this is crazy,
It's
Um,
overwhelming. Yeah, it's absolutely overwhelming to try and navigate that when you're thrust into it, or even if you slowly, or find your way into it because of a sickness that is unfolded. You stand in the store and you realize that everything has some component in there that is really, and that's what we all have in common in this country. That is the basis of what we all have in common. You can go into a grocery store on the East Coast and on the West Coast, and you can find pretty much the same things in that grocery store. So, at the root of a lot of our issues are food. It's our food system. So you do the best that you can afterwards. We didn't probably eat out for 15 years after that, after I realized how much food was affecting us. In fact, at the time I was a super couponer. So I had stayed at home with my kids, and I had learned how to use coupons to get our groceries for pretty much free. And we had every snack pack pudding and toaster pop, imaginable in the pantry. And I realized I read a book called The Unhealthy Truth by Robin O'Brien, and it changed my life. She's like the Aaron Brockovich of food. So she, laid it out on how the food system is making us sick. And I read it and I went home and I cleaned out my pantry. And my husband thought I was crazy. And I said, we're going to make a change here. And most people aren't quite that dramatic to go and, kind of leave everything behind that they've known as far as food wise, the comforts of food. But it worked for us. And, one thing led to another. And then I became aware of how our emotions also affect our physical body and our biofield and the energy flow through our body. And so that's what has kind of taken place for me over the years. It hasn't been, it's been, the last 10 years for sure, the last 18 really with my youngest son. So it's not like it happened overnight. And so for people who just, they get really sick really quick, I feel, it's overwhelming. I've been there. I had a little bit more gradual time, and it wasn't anything as serious as celiac. For him, he just got a snotty nose and ear infections, but for him, that was a big deal, so yeah. So then there's the emotional component that comes into that as well.
Oh, hugely. I mean, I think it's so perfect that we're having this conversation now because, I have been doing my own work about, I think back in June in the midst of a Akashic client session, that was something that they shared was food doesn't make you gain weight. It's your thoughts, it's your emotions, it's the way you think about it that does. And that has put me on this massively different trajectory with not only how I look at food, but understanding the mental component, then stepping into the energetic component. And I've been working within the Akashic records and with my energy and starting to heal these issues within my body. It's extremely fascinating to me, but the emotional component I think is honestly even bigger than what it is that we're eating really when it comes down to it. But you've got kids in that mix and I don't understand it all. So there's still more to kind of unfold.
There's more components. There absolutely are more components. I mean, there's an environmental factor. There's, a lot of different components. So we have to work with what we can and shore up the foundation as best we can so that we can have that overall wellness, and be the lightest and brightest versions of ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, whether it is just a snotty nose or celiacs, when you don't feel good, you're not your best and you can't show up as your best. You can't be your best. Who wants to try and build an empire when they feel like crap every day?
Exactly.
It's huge. So, and I love that I always crack up because it's like Reiki is such the gateway drug, right? It always kind of brings us in. So, I'm
so
really
easy.
It is easy, but I think what it does is it really introduces us to energy and understanding how energy flows and moves and the fact that everything is energy. It just brings us into a completely different relationship with energy in general. And then therefore the world around us, that's why I think it kind of blows the doors off in a lot of respects. I found the Akashic records first before I found Reiki, but still Reiki brought in that physical component for me. It kind of brought it down to earth a little bit more because, the Akashic records can feel so esoteric. And so, but Reiki, I think, is a really sort of nice grounded way of coming into contact with energy and beginning to work with it. So you have two different modalities that you work with, both the biofield tuning and the resonance biofeedback. So I'd love to kind of maybe start with one and then kind of dive into another, and then we could bring them back together if that works for you. Or if you have a better way of kind of going about it. But maybe we could just start off with you kind of giving us a foundational definition, understanding of what biofield tuning is.
Yeah. So when I first started and I was a Reiki practitioner, I just was kind of looking for other things to blend that would work well. And I bought a tuning fork because I had seen somebody use a tuning fork and I thought, oh, that's cool. I need to get one of those. So I went on Amazon and I think I got like the ohm fork, I think is what it was. And I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't research anything else. I just kind of had it. And I had a client who had developed a really kind of an autoimmune disease around getting bit by a mosquito. And she had horrible joint pain. And I was doing Reiki on her. And in the middle of the session, I just thought, oh, I should get the tuning fork. And so I just followed that impression and ran and grabbed it. And when I got done, she sat up and she said, oh my gosh, did you make a mess? And I was like, what are you talking about? She said, with that warm oil that you poured all over my feet, it just felt so wonderful. It had to have gotten on the carpet. Did you make a mess? And I was like, well, I was just held up the tuning fork. I was like, no, I just used this. So that just kind of like, I was like, okay, wow, whatever that was, I need to find out a little bit more. So I, did a quick search for tuning forks and I came across a lady named Eileen McCusick. And she had written a book called Tuning the Human Biofield. And I listened to a couple of the talks that she had. And I immediately ordered the book, read it, and I knew that I needed to take this class without ever having a session. It blew my mind, the information that she had discovered around tuning forks. Because most people, when you say, I do tuning forks, they're like, oh yeah, I've had that. I've had that. And I'm like, well, have you had biofield tuning? Yeah, I've had that. Well, it's very different. It's a very specific technique. So after I read the book, I signed up for a class and flew out to San Diego and was able to train with her for the first level and then shortly after for the second and the practitioner. But what she discovered was that she was actually able to map our biofield. So the biofield was the term given by the National Institute of Health for the energy field around us. And they had to give it a scientific name, even though they really don't quite believe that it exists, even though they kind of have figured out that it exists from being able to measure our heart from EKGs and EEGs and our brain waves and things like that. But they don't look at it in the Western tradition definitely doesn't look at it like the Eastern tradition does in form of chakras and just having a bubble around us of energy that we can't see. Because if you can't see it here in the United States, it doesn't exist for the, unless it's God for the most part, So what she was able to do is she was actually able to map the field, map this area of space around us. And she did that over a number of years. She actually kind of I won't say accidentally discovered this technique because there's no accidents. She happened to be working on a client and she stepped away from the client to look out the window. And when she came back, she activated the fork farther away from the body than she normally would have. And she noticed that there were tones out here in this empty space around her client that were just, it didn't sound normal. So she became curious and she found that out here in this empty space, it seems to hold record of something. And that there were sounds that came from the tuning forks out here that it didn't make in other parts of the body. And if she stayed with it for a long enough time, striking the fork, it kind of moved as she went along. And her client, I think they experienced a sensation around the throat area as she activated the tuning forks where she had some unresolved jaw pain. And they felt the energy kind of move. And the client called her the next day and said all her pain had disappeared. So that set her on a journey of curiosity, of trying to figure out what is this out here that we've never been told about. We all have that.
And is this the aura?
Yeah, could be, yes, or the Akash, maybe. What is it?
Okay.
We're not sure. It just is an informational field of standing waves of information. And what it seems to be is that where we're told that we hold all of this information in the brain and in our minds, it really is out here in our energetic bubble, in our energetic file cabinet or our own personal cloud that we're walking around in. We have So what she found was that the edge of the field, which is, typically, for depending on who you are, but around 5-6 feet away from the body, holds the edge of our field is just like a cell membrane, and it holds our birth story. It also holds our birth experience, and it holds gestation. So whatever mom had going on at the time will be held in that outer boundary of the field. And as you move in towards the body, it's kind of like the rings of a tree, if you think about the rings of a tree, but the rings of a tree kind of grow in the opposite direction. So the farther away from your body it would be your birth. Your body is your present age. So if say if at 12 years old, your parents got divorced and that was traumatic for you, or even if it wasn't traumatic for you, it was still an experience that had emotions tied to it. As I'm activating the fork coming from the edge of your field into your body, there will be some kind of disruption at that 12-year-old mark. So we actually can kind of look at different ages of things that have happened to us throughout our envelope of life that are emotionally charged. All the good stuff is there too, but things that are emotionally charged will sound different in the fork. So as you come across, you activate the tuning fork, the clients can hear it. They can hear that the tone has changed in the fork. They oftentimes will feel it in their body in a certain way, a certain place that they may be storing those emotions. They'll either get a heaviness, or they'll, the breath will change. Sometimes you'll get a throbbing in a pinky, and sometimes they just feel very relaxed and they're ready to let it all flow. But so as you stay with it with the tuning fork, your body's essentially listening to itself, just like you would tune an instrument, just like you would tune a piano or a guitar, where they strike the tuning fork and let the two come into resonance. The body is doing the same thing. So your body can be tuned just like a car, just like a stringed instrument or a piano. And you come across with the forks, you let it kind of stay there and let your body listen to itself. And your body's like, whoa, that doesn't sound right to me. Our cells are listening. Our cells have little antenna on them. Every single one of the trillions of cells that we have, they are listening to our environment. They're sensing our environment. So the tuning forks act like a resonant tone generator for us to hear ourselves, for us to hear any stagnation. I call it emotional static. I mean, think about, showing my age, when you tune into a radio station and it's all staticky, or really how, our connection of the internet has been a little staticky. So when we use the tuning forks in that way, it clears up the static that's in our energy field that prevents a proper flow of energy through our body. And suppressed emotions decrease electromagnetic flow in the energy field, and it results in an imbalance. It results in dis-ease. It results in us just not being our optimal functioning self that we can be. So we use the tuning forks kind of like an acoustic sonar to let our bodies hear itself, and we kind of clear that out. And people usually, I have a couple of different, you either come into this office, or I do it distantly as well, and you completely get knocked out within just a few minutes and don't even hear me talking, or you have a very emotional response. And sometimes it can be, really emotionally charged. So it can be very relaxing, depending on where we're at, and it can become very emotional. So it just helps to clear up emotional static in the field. So, you had a recent move that has been pretty, traumatic would be a pretty heavy word at this point, but it's been really discombobulating for you. So
it's a traumatic with a small t.
Yeah, we would probably hit a lot of static close to your body, because you're still actually working through that yourself, working through this experience. So yeah, so that's it. That's in a nutshell. It's a pretty remarkable technique. And once I read about it, once I went and experienced it myself, I knew that it was going to be a game changer for a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very fascinating. Just listening to you talking about it. So I have a couple of questions. First, like when I'm thinking about these rings or where these things exist, are they on particular sides of our body, or is it just like Like if you were to hit on this outer exterior on my right, would it be the same as if you hit it on the left? Or are
Yeah, so
they?
what she is able to do, yeah, so that's a great question, because when I spoke of the mapping earlier, she's actually able to map different emotions being held in different parts of our energy field. And I have a little mini map here. I don't know, I'm going to hold it up to the camera real quick, and then I can send you a little copy of that. Let's see, you can only see it so well, but I'll
Very
kind of
cool.
describe it to you. I know that you have mostly listeners, or I don't know if they're mostly listeners or not, but they wouldn't be able to see this unless they actually went to your YouTube. But what she found was that on the left and the right side, that typically, so for example, the different chakras, when people talk about their chakras being blocked, you know, it's there definitely can be static in the column of the chakra, so the area that moves away from the body. But it seems to be that all this stuff on the left and the right side is really what's clogging up the energy flow. And so for people who have been through a lot of sadness or grief or loss, depression, that lives off the left side of the heart in the energy field, from your body out to 4 to 6 feet away from you. You know, the right side of the root chakra, off that right hip. A lot of people who have right hip issues have busy mind, overthinking, overdoing. For me, that has come up a lot over the years. My mind, you know, I think about a lot of things. And so I'll notice that it's really hard for me at times to kind of sit down and focus on one thing when I'm not in the office, because here's where I am able to focus. But in my daily life, I have the laundry, I have, you know, the kids are doing this, I'm going somewhere here, the house needs to be cleaned or whatever. So you know, that busy mind, overthinking, overdoing will show up in that right root, off the right root, usually in the right hip. Guilt and shame live off the right side of the sacral chakra. You have your, you know, we work with the feet. So we work with the 7 main energy centers in biofield tuning, and then we work with a couple of different additional areas: the feet, the knees, the earth star, which is below the soles of the feet, that connects our energy field to the earth. The sun star or soul star, which is above the crown chakra. The feet have to do with feeling stuck. The left side in particular is feeling stuck in a toxic situation, wanting to move away from stress, but you can't. And then the right foot has to do with next steps, where we're headed and how we feel about that. So a lot of people will come to me. I get a lot of stuck people. You know, they've been to providers who they just feel like they're not getting any answers, or they're unable to make a decision for themselves, or they just don't know what's coming up next. So a lot of times the feet will come up to be worked on. So I ask, you know, in biofield tuning, we ask where the work needs to be done typically, and we do that in the form of a pendulum. And we just hold it over the chakras and ask, you know, where do we need to go to most benefit this person here today? And a lot of times the feet will come up, especially if they're feeling stuck, or if they're in a transitory time of their life. Moves are huge for people. You know, even if it's a good move, we find that in the field, you know, consistently. I had a client who I kept hitting the spot, and I was asking him, I said, well, you know, where were you at it? I think it was like 22. I just couldn't get it to kind of resonantly clear. And he was like, oh, it was nothing. I just moved countries. I moved to the United States from another country as a child. It wasn't 22, it was younger, because it was as a child. And so I was like, well, he said, but I was really excited. And I was like, well, that's a big deal. I mean, you're emotionally uprooting your energy from one country to the next. So that is exactly what we're in at this point. So moves are big, you know, for kindergarten is big for a lot of people. You know, that's a big transition time from moving out of your safe zone into a, you know, exciting and new, maybe not so safe zone that you feel safe, you know. Teenage years are big for people. We find concussions, we find accidents in the field. We find, you know, anything that has happened in your envelope of life is stored in this empty space that you're just walking around with every day in life. And it's fascinating that she was able to, over the years, find exactly where most of this information is typically held for most people. You know, the knees are about letting go, being able to, the left side challenges with attachments to letting go of things, whether they're stories that you believe about yourself or stories that someone else has told you that you believe about yourself. The right side is confusion of moving forward. You know, the knees and the feet and the root down is all about our momentum forward. And then we have in the outer boundary of the field, birth and gestation. So whatever mom had going on when she had you, we bring in a lot of stuff. We bring in a lot of stuff from our parents, so that may affect us throughout our entire life that we have no idea. Now, I personally may not know what that information is. I just know that I'm hitting something in the field that is emotionally charged. So I'm not a psychic. I'm not a medium. So if you're looking for that, I'm not your girl. But I do know where there are spots in your field where I can find that need some attention, that need to be cleared up. And sometimes I'll get a hit of what it may feel like or what it may sound like. And there are some practitioners actually who, like my teacher Eileen, is just fascinating because that is her gift. I mean, this is the modality that she has created, and she's able to hear a fork or to feel the vibration of a fork from across the room, as she did in one of my sessions during training, and know exactly what that was and how it pertained to my own mother. So you don't necessarily have to know that information for it to be effective, which is wonderful, because she's now taught thousands of practitioners all over the world now. I think we're in many different countries.
That's so cool. It's yeah, it just sounds like I know you were kind enough to like, hey, let's do a session before the interview, and I was like, I'm moving. But it sounds like that's probably what I could have used after the move. Incredible. So I want to make sure that we cover resonance biofeedback as well, and then we can kind of come back here. But I'm also curious because I know you use these modalities together, right? So the resonance biofeedback, talk to us about what that is, because it is different, right, from the biofield tuning.
Biofield tuning. Yeah,
Correct.
It's different in a way. I mean, they complement each other really well in the fact that they're both using frequency. They're both using a form of feedback. You know, with biofield tuning, I'm using the forks to get biofeedback off of your body and off of your energy field. And with the program that I use is called the Genius Insight, and it's an app that you really download to your smart device. It uses your voice. So just like if I were to have a cold and I would be speaking to you and we were together in the office, you'd be like, oh, what's going on with you? You know, it sounds like you have something going on. Or if you're to scream, there are different screams. There's an excited scream, and then there's a terrified scream. And that emotion, that information is encoded in your voice when you speak to someone. So this particular program does a voice analysis. It's called Spectral voice analysis. And it uses your voice with different algorithms in the program. And then it kind of creates it will tell us, first of all, it will tell us where there is energetically some stress in your body, in your emotions, in your, I won't say thoughts, but I guess that would be in there. And then it will tell us where those stressors are at. And then I can use that information to create almost a song for you based on just that is of frequencies. So it's not like a melodious song. It's different frequencies and different sounds that will help to energetically bring your body back into resonance. And one of the I've seen it match blood work. It's not I'm not a doctor, so I don't diagnose anything. I can tell you that energetically your liver may need some support, and we're going to do that with sound. I don't do it with medicine. I do it with sound. And then the different frequencies that come up for that. And so, but emotionally, it will also tell us what emotions you may have kind of hanging out. Whereas in biofield tuning, I may not be able to tell you exactly what that emotion is, but the program will actually tell us that, you know, that you're having some trouble in your heart chakra around sadness. And then it also uses flower essences. So flower essences is another component. I actually use the physical flower essences, but energetically I use them as well. And flower essences were developed back in the early 1900s by Dr. Edward Bach. And he found that different flowers held a a different energetic emotional component to help us balance our emotions. So when I scan your voice, I'm actually able to tell you what flower essences come up for you. So I did a little scan today for the group of listeners. So just to see what would come up, and if they're, everybody who's listening, if you're open to receiving these frequencies, then you just have to give permission. So energetically, you'll receive them after, during or after the session, but because we're going to do the little tuning at the end as well. And so the flower essences that came up for this group, I had to write them down. So hold on. Were the flower of honeysuckle, and that is when we're kind of stuck in the past. So we're kind of looking back on nostalgic times, looking back nostalgically, saying, I wish, what if this wouldn't have happened. So I mean, how many people aren't doing that now in 2022 based off of what we've been through the last few years, right? Huge. And then Serato helps us to trust our own innate wisdom. So when we haven't been able to trust our own decisions or making these decisions for ourselves, whether it be about our healthcare or whether it be about, whatever it may be, it allows us to trust in our own innate, our own wisdom within our body. And then Scleranthus is when we're indecisive. Should I do this? Should I do this? Should I listen to this person? Should I listen to this person on the news? What are we doing here? So it helps us to be more decisive. And then Rockwater helps us to flow with life again. We've been so bumped up and jangled and jumped around. It's time for us to start flowing again in a more positive and optimal way. So I found it very interesting that based off of a group of listeners, that these were the top flower essences that came up, because that really reflects the last few years for a lot of everybody, really. So what that does is it kind of creates this song and it lets you listen to it. And then a really cool component of this is that there's actually an app that you can download onto your own device that I can send these to, and that you get to listen to as much as you want, almost like an energetic prescription that will expire in like 7 days. I think it's 7 days. So I have a frequency medicine program that I'm able to actually send you these things that your body is asking for, that your emotions, that your energy body is asking for, to bring you more coherent and more balanced.
So how did you scan the voice of the audience?
So I use my voice as a surrogate. So just like when you do distance work, like doing Reiki distance work, and you have a surrogate, whether you're using a teddy bear or, you're just using, like behind me, I have a mat that I use that has a person's body on it. Sometimes I have a little skeleton, but I use my voice as a reflection of the entire group of anyone who was willing and open to receive the frequencies. And my voice was the reflection of that.
So does it just give us kind of the areas where we need to improve, or the areas that'll help balance us out? Or does it also offer like, I don't know, like positive things?
So positive affirmations. Yeah. Yeah. So just like with biofield tuning, all the good stuff is in there too. Right. It certainly shows us, it's mostly shown us where there is an imbalance, but we can see where there is balance within other things. So some people think that they have, for the most part, the flowers that come up when I'm doing it is what gets most people, because that's something, when I tell them what flowers come up for them, which flower essences resonate most with them, they can relate that to something now. They're like, oh yeah, that is me. Or, oh yeah, I have that going on right now. Other things, like if your liver were to come up, but you're not having any liver issues, they're going to be like, oh, well, my liver came up. But energetically, all of our livers probably are a little out because of the food that we eat, especially here. There's no reason that it wouldn't need support, at this point. So I think the flower essence help kind of help you to understand that there's something going on here other than you speaking your voice into my little into my app and saying, you know, your vowel, because I asked you to say your vowels because it gives a wide range of tones, peaks and valleys of the voice. And people are like, what, I'm going to speak into your machine and then you're going to tell me what's wrong with me? No, you're going to speak into my machine and I'm going to tell you what it says, where it says you need some more balance. So all the good stuff is there as well. So I'm never going to tell anybody that they have a disease or they have this or they have that. I do have people who come in who said, you know, I have this test here that I had run and it's showing that I have heavy metals, or I have, you know, they may have Lyme disease or they may have celiac or something like that, that they have a test that we can actually compare it to. And I have done that before. I've seen it match with blood work. I've seen spinal energy actually matches. When I go to the chiropractor, I'll ask him which areas that he found out of balance, and it usually matches to a T. And so energetically, I can go to the chiropractor and then I can set that up for myself and listen to the frequencies. So not only am I getting a physical adjustment, I'm also getting an energetic adjustment with the tones and frequencies that come up around those different spinal subluxations.
And do you find that once you clear out things energetically that they don't return? Or
so that this is one, the biofeedback is something that you need to be really consistent with. I've actually, you know, every person is different. So these tools that we have are not the healers. You know, they're just a tool. You are the healer. Whoever I'm working on, it is really your responsibility for your own health. I may just be directing you in a different way or kind of sending you frequencies, but what you do with that information, I have no control over. So consistency is key. Chronic issues, it may take a while. That's why I like to use them together, because they really, all the different techniques or modalities that I use kind of complement one another. Biofield tuning can create some pretty instantaneous at times adjustments for people and awarenesses. And I think that the biofeedback is a little more gentle, although I have actually seems to have cleared up colds and coughs and fever blisters on people and things that have immediately stopped them, you know, an infection in their tracks. So I can support people, you know, who are going through who are sick. You know, we can support them energetically. But for the most part, for the most of people, I think this is the medicine of the future. And I think we're moving in that direction of instantaneous, you know, 5 minutes and, oh, I am better. But we've been programmed that that's not so. So for the most of the population, it takes a little bit more consistency to use it. But the awareness that happens when I tell you what flower essences come up for you, or I tell you that there's some energetic stagnation around this area, your body is receiving that information. Your mind and your subconscious and your higher self is receiving that information. Kind of like just, you know, when you do one of your sessions, that person is receiving that information and things are changing. You know, things are happening on a subconscious level that they don't even realize it's happening.
absolutely, absolutely. I mean, the thing is that, you know, and I'm sure that you were in Atlantis as well, but I have multiple lifetimes in Atlantis. And, you know, one of the very first visions that I received of being in Atlantis was working on people and healing people. And that was very much shown to me in a way that's similar to Reiki, but is not Reiki. But it was like, this was how people stayed healthy then, is that they were constantly clearing this energetic field out. But we've had, I mean, since that time on planet Earth, right? We don't do these things. And so we've got lifetimes built upon this planet. So even when we exit our body and then come in as a different human being, we're still stepping into a lot of that same energetic buildup. And so it's very rarely like an immediate thing. You know, I know within my own work that I've been doing within the Akashic Records, like it really takes multiple sessions in order to really get down. Absolutely. Yeah. Because it's not just this lifetime either. You know, these other lifetimes do play a role. The energy that is just kind of built up around us. So in the biofield, does she have any sort of like connection there with past lives? Is anything like that mapped out?
Yeah, so typically in biofield tuning, we're working on this life. However, what she has discovered is down the left side. So right where the elbows sit, on the left side is your relationship with mom. It's a fixed part in the energy field that holds that relationship, whether it's bio mom, adopted mom, mother figure, whatever that is. Or if dad acted like mom, it had to be the soul, then there could be some energy there as well. So that is like a little pocket of information that holds your relationship with mom. On the right side is dad. A lot of people who have elbow issues will have tennis elbow or something like that, or inflammation in the elbow will have an interesting dynamic with that relationship with a parent that is unresolved. And through that area from vertically that runs from the top of the head down to the feet is what we call the ancestral river. And it's a flow of energy that when I first started, we were only finding it most of the time on mom's side. And she named it the ancestral river because it really feels like when you're in that area with the tuning fork, you're kind of in this flow of a river, and it will hold you there. It has a different tone to it. It has a different feeling. And when you stop in that area for whatever reason, it doesn't, I can find it now on every client because I know that it's there, but before it would only present itself in certain clients, which was always interesting and fascinating. But as we work in that with the tones of the fork, with the intention to clear any static around the ancestors, we're doing this work on not ourselves, but everyone who has come before us, and everyone, and even our own children, and everyone who will come after us. So, and as far as past lives, so most of that is the energetic DNA of our ancestors, but on the outer boundaries of the field, sometimes in that outer boundary, but even before, for some practitioners, there seems to be some information on the outside of the field that has to do with past lives. Now, Eileen will tell you that her experience with clients who had that experience where she was pushed over the boundary of the field, they all had some kind of regression or some kind of experience where they remembered that life, and that kind of came up for them. I've been pushed back with the fork. So as I activate the fork and I'm closer to the body, sometimes I'll hit a spot that actually draws me back across that outer boundary. What is that for me? I don't know. It's before this lifetime. So I only can assume based on really my belief system, I guess, at this point, that it is more than likely a past life or has something to do with our parents before we were even born. Some other time that's outside of this bubble of life. So then there are some practitioners that I think that work specifically in kind of a past life format. That's not something I typically do. It's not my focus, but there are some practitioners who kind of have that as their expertise, I guess.
That's fascinating. I love too, like, as you're talking, I mean, the thing is, and you kind of said this at the beginning, like, this really isn't woo, it feels very scientific, very grounded, very, one of the things when I was learning about the biofield from your website, and I believe it was Eileen, I think, who was speaking about how the body is electrical, right? And we don't think of the body as being electrical. And I just think it's really interesting to consider that in regards to the ways in which we interact with the world around us, and the ways in which this energy healing, because I'm with you, like, this is the future of medicine, there are different ways and different modalities that we can intake, supplements that we can, what I mean? Like, there's all sorts of, going to be interviewing someone else as well who works with subtle energy is what they call it. But it's really just like looking at these visualizations, these designs that then imprint these energetic tones basically into our body. It's just very fascinating to me, and my mental mind like fully wants to understand it, but of course I can't fully,
Well, yeah, and I have that same as well. I don't claim to be an expert in physics or anything like that. I know what feels true to me, and I know from experience working with myself and working with clients, this stuff that we walk around with, this emotional static has mass to it. It physically weighs us down. And when it can't move through the body, that's where, you know, we have these aches and pains a lot of times. With, oh, he said something, I lost track of what I was saying. Oh, being electric. Yes, we have taught, I mean, where did you learn in school that you're electric? You know,
Nowhere.
when you walk up to, right, when you walk up to the refrigerator at the grocery store or the gas pump and you stick your finger out and you get zapped, that is the electricity coming off of the surface of your skin. So we're very electric. She just, Aline just had a new book come out. It's called Electric Body, Electric Health, which is a continuation of Tuning the Human Biofield, both completely fascinating reads. And you don't have to understand all of the physics. She's done a really good job at mainstreaming this, this particular technique and modality. But you don't have to understand all of it to know or to understand that there's something here. You know, there's something very magical. Well, not even magical. There's something very scientifically based in sound and frequency. We are sound. We're, you know, sound is all around us. And when, you know, they use tuning forks in the hospital to find a break in your body because of bouncing that sound wave. Well, first of all, it really hurts. If you come near a broken bone with a with a tuning fork, you're going to know it because there's a lack of sound there, and also it's very painful. So we don't work on fresh breaks or anything like that with the tuning fork. But there's a place for this, and you know, I agree. I think that we're headed in this direction, and people are ready for this. They are. You know, when I started this 8 years ago, people were like, "You're doing what? Reiki, what, huh?" My husband was like, "Okay, this Reiki thing, it's got a weird name, but you're not yelling at me as much anymore, and you're not yelling at the kids anymore. So whatever this is, you just need to keep on doing what you're doing." And so he's been along with me on this ride and has been such a support. So that's always good to have a support system like that, who, even though they think you're a little crazy at the time, they realize that it's not, you know, there's something to this here. There's something to this.
Yeah,
So,
for
yeah.
sure. That's funny. My partner was just like, "Wait, this isn't witchcraft, right?" That was kind of how everything started. And I was like,
Right.
"No, these are
Yeah.
crystals. This is not witchcraft." And then
Yeah.
Akashic, "This isn't witchcraft, right?" It's like, no. Okay, so let's talk about this. Like, it's all good. All right, Miss Tammy. So what I'd like to do is I would like for us to oh gosh. I want to jump into the lightning round. We're going to just do a couple of the questions. They're very quick. And then we'll do the adjustment. And then I'd love to come back and for you just to kind of share with folks, like, you know, how they can connect with you, some different ways in which they can work with you before we kind of wrap things up. But I want to make sure that there's time for the adjustment. So let's go ahead and switch gears a little bit into the lightning round.
Do I need to buckle
So
up because I'm a little scared?
quick, easy questions. Okay, number one, what is the one habit that you can't live without?
Oh my gosh. I really would say it's probably Reiki. I mean, it is a habit. I mean, once you become Reiki, it's just there. You know, once you kind of some people forget that they have it after they learn it. But if you really sink into that, that we are powerful and we have so much more within us than we have ever been taught, that's one thing that I use it all the time. So it's a habit. It's a habit. Yeah.
Love it. Number two, what does spirituality mean for you?
Spirituality to me has been, is and has been the most connected that I have ever felt to source, God, creator in my entire life. And it is a connection to everything that ever has, will be. You know, it's just It's a connection. It's a connection of where you know that there's a truth there, that you may not understand everything, and you're okay with not having to understand everything. Because one day I will be able to understand all of this crazy stuff.
It's like both exciting and sad to me. I'm like, no, I don't want to know it all because I like the questions.
Yeah.
I go back and forth. Okay, number 3. What is your advice to anyone who is looking to find their soul-driven path?
Well, I can only speak from my own experience. So I followed the breadcrumbs. One angel whispers is what I call them. When I thought that I was I thought I was doing something for someone else, and it really ended up being kind of for me. So I would hear snippets of, Reiki here, or, biofield tuning here. And I just kind of acted on the impulse of my own innate knowing, and trusting that wherever I needed to go, that I was going to be fine. And it was going to lead me to exactly where I needed to be. So I think trusting your own intuition is the biggest one, and not listening to what everybody else is telling you to do. You check in with yourself and you see, is this my truth? And just follow it.
I love that. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and dive into the adjustment then. And then we will be back on the other side and learn about how everyone can connect with you, Tammy, because I just know that my audience is going to be like, oh my gosh, I want to talk to her. I need to connect.
Mm-hmm.
So make sure to just kind of stay tuned in, folks, and we'll be back. And I'll just let you take over.
Okay. All right. So just first of all, take a nice deep breath. Just kind of clear out all of that conversation that we just had, kind of letting it dissolve into the background. If you're driving, I would suggest you probably put this on hold. Just pause it, come back to it later. Just be in a place where you can really just connect for the next few minutes. We're going to connect into our own body with the breath, with intention, and with the sound of the tuning forks. If you're sitting down, just, get comfortable. If you're lying down, that's okay too. But just bring your awareness, consciously connect to the breath. Just a nice, gentle breath in. So as you breathe in gently, just kind of feel how your throat softens with the breath as it goes down into the belly, and breathe down deep into the belly. And then just letting it out nice and long and slow. You can sigh, whatever feels comfortable to you. And I'm going to start to activate the tuning fork. So you're going to hear me breathe a lot. If you hear me take a nice deep breath, that's an invitation for you to take a deep breath as well. Make sure that you're not holding your breath. A lot of times when we start to activate the tuning forks, when there's any stagnation in the field, there's a lack of breath there, a lack of movement of energy, and it'll cause you to kind of hold your breath. So we want to breathe deeply, gently. So feel your rib cage expand as you bring that breath in. And biofield tuning is an energy adjustment. It's much different than a sound bath. It's not the same. It can be very relaxing, but it can also be very activating at the same time. So just do a little scan in your body as I activate the forks, and then we'll focus on the area below the feet. But just do a little scan of your body, starting at the top of your head, moving all the way down, just noticing any places of tension or any places that kind of your attention is drawn to. Take a nice deep breath there, wherever you stop. Don't attach to anything about what it may be or why it's there. We're just bringing our awareness into the body. I want you to make your way all the way down to below the soles of your feet. We have an energy center here we call the Earth Star. This is our connection to the Earth. You can envision it, if you'd like, as a ball of light. Some people see it as a deep ruby red color, a little different than the root chakra color, but you can see it as anything, as any color that you would like. Some people say it's about the size of a softball. We're just giving the mind something to focus on. Take a nice deep breath. We're just giving permission for the body to release and let go of anything that no longer serves. Any stress or tension, anything that you've been holding on to, conversations, interactions with others, to-do lists, letting all of that just kind of dissolve into the background. Let's just set an intention here to let go of anything that's not yours. Anything is not yours to carry. And then calling back to yourself any energy that may be scattered with someone else, something else, a conversation, an event, across all timelines, past, present, future, known and unknown. Draw that back to you on your breath, like little bits of starlight. You're seeing it come back into your breath, into your core, into your chest. And then send that breath all the way down the body on the exhale, down through the legs or down through the tailbone into the seat beneath you, however you're sitting or lying down, whatever feels right to you. And then focusing again there beneath the feet to the Earth Star. A little adjustment here on the Earth Star, just sending the breath. So sometimes the Earth Star will be tucked a bit based off of experiences that we've had. So sometimes it needs to be adjusted out a little farther in the energy field. So I'm just gently guiding that, or whoever needs an adjustment here. Imagine that you have little trap doors on the bottoms of your feet and you're sending your breath straight through those trap doors, straight down into the earth beneath you. Letting all that stress and tension just release. Imagine that light is flowing through your body. And then on the next breath, we're gonna reverse that flow. So on the inhale, I want you to draw light up from the center of the earth into your Earth Star, into the soles of your feet, all the way up your legs. Let it collect there in the lower belly as you bring that breath in. And then send that light all the way up your central channel, up your spine, out the top of your crown like a whale spout or a fountain. So essentially a column of light coming up from the earth, all the way up your body and out the top of the crown. Connecting you with the wisdom of the earth, connecting you with information that you need for your physical body and your energetic body, clearing and cleansing out anything that no longer serves, activating, restoring, and revitalizing you on a cellular level, on an energetic level. Take a nice deep breath. And we're going to go up to the crown. So we're going to shift our awareness up to the top of the head. Imagining you have a beautiful flower right on the top of your head. And there's an incredible light that emanates from the center of the universe. It comes down in the form of sound through the tuning fork. And imagine your flower is opening up to the sound of the fork. And on your inhale, you draw that light down into your head, into your body, down the spine, and all the way down the body, down through the soles of the feet. So we have this bi-directional flow of energy. As we worked on the feet, we brought it up and out the top of the crown. Now we come in through the top of the crown and go out through the feet. So your body essentially is a rechargeable battery. Below your feet is the negative polarity, and the top of your head is the positive polarity of the battery. We're constantly recharging and discharging our energy. And when these channels are blocked, there's not an optimal flow of energy. So biofield tuning helps to open up those channels, helps you to remember, helps your body to be able to access that electricity that we need for optimal functioning of every single cell in the body. So now letting your awareness drift up just a little bit higher into that sun star. Some people call it the soul star. I'm just going to adjust this one out as well. Sometimes the earth star is tucked, the sun star will be as well. And just open up to receive any information, energetic information that your body needs for clearing and optimal performance. I'm going to move over to 2 weighted forks. You're not going to hear the sound of these. Just focusing up on the head. I'm just going to clear out any static here around the crown area. We're being bombarded with tons of information right now. Energetic information, and then we have all of the radio waves of the news. So just clearing that static. I feel like most of us are walking around looking like Pigpen from the Peanuts, from Charlie Brown, with all of this collective static around us. Take a nice deep breath. And then on the breath, continue to draw that light in through the crown, letting it collect in the belly, and then on the exhale, sending it all the way down through your legs or down through the root chakra, through the tailbone, into the chair beneath you or the ground beneath you. Take a nice deep breath. Changing to a different fork and a different frequency. One last nice, deep, and easy breath in. Fully connecting in with your body and the breath. If you're sitting in a chair, just feel your feet on the floor. Feel the support of the chair underneath you, the same as if you're lying down. Feel yourself supported. Just letting the tincture bells just kind of ripple across your energy field, cleansing, clearing, clarifying, reconnecting you fully and completely into your body. When you're ready, you can start to gently wiggle your fingers and your toes, just coming back to center. Maybe seeing if you can feel where your eyelashes are gently resting across your cheekbones. Just kind of bring your awareness up into your eyes, into your head. Kind of check in and see how you feel now compared to when we started. Giving yourself ease and grace and gratitude for even the smallest of adjustments, even the smallest of a different experience in your physical body. It's more centered and grounded. And taking your time, whenever you're ready, you can come back in, gently fluttering the eyes open, maybe giving a good stretch. Welcome back.
I don't know how I'm supposed to be a podcast person now.
Why is that?
Oh, I'm just so relaxed. That was wonderful, Tammy. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I could really feel it
So
in my feet, in the, like I could really feel that in my feet.
yeah.
Yeah, it feels really good. My vision's kind of blurry now.
Yeah, it's sessions can be definitely so impactful. I had one not too long ago from a fellow practitioner, and she worked on my right side, and you don't realize how much weight, as I mentioned earlier, that these things that we're working through, or these experiences of life, that I call them big invisible suitcases that we're carrying around, or envelope with life. And I don't remember exactly where she was working, but it was somewhere on the side. And when I walked out, I actually walked crooked. Like when I got up, I could not stand up straight. And it took me about 10 minutes going outside, putting my bare feet on the ground, taking a few deep breaths and connecting in before I was actually able to feel like I was, centered again. And once that happened, it was fantastic. But whatever we moved through on that side was such a heavy weight on me. It caused me to have a difference in fluctuation of the field of the energy field. So we have a lot of stuff that we can move, and it doesn't have to be super traumatic. I tell the story of my 22-year-old when he was 6 years old, or he was somewhere around that. I don't remember exactly which age. I don't even know how old I am. But I was mad at him. I was furious, and it was not a proud mom moment. I was out of control. This was pre-Reiki, I will say. I was fussing at him. I was giving him the business, had my finger in his face, and there was a pencil on the desk beside him. And I just picked it up and I snapped it. And the look on his face was that I had broken his heart. And, now what I know is that, first of all, here's mom, who's supposed to be his protector, who is in his face, fussing at him. And then I break his pencil. So in his mind, as a 6-year-old, is I wanted to break him. Now he doesn't remember this, and he laughs at me every time I tell the story. And I said, but someday you're going to be in somebody's office like mine, and they're going to say, what happened when you were 6 years old? And you're going to be like, mama broke my pencil. So, and unfortunately, I make light of that, and he makes light of that, there's no telling what I helped to lay down in his energy field that he still draws from today, from that interaction with me. And I know from the work that I do that all of those things are there. So that experience is still hanging out in his field going, I probably need a little attention here. We're going to have some mommy issues coming up, you know. But the beautiful thing about biofield tuning is that you can't escape from the tuning forks. These things that have happened, these pockets in your life, not that you want to escape them. Sometimes we just want to ignore them and act like they're not there, right? Because it's not comfortable all the time. But you know, Eileen has come up with what she calls a hack to that with the tuning forks, and that it helps us to resolve it never takes away what happened. You know, these things, these tools that we have, it never takes away the experience. But what it does is it helps to neutralize the emotions around that experience so that you can make better decisions, so that you can be a better version of you, so that you're not pulling from that trauma all the time. And we can, you know, when you think about those things that have made you, that were traumatic or just, you know, events that have happened that make you feel crunchy inside, when the tuning forks get in there and do the work and help your body to hear itself and tune itself back to the way it was before, you don't feel crunchy inside anymore about those things. You feel lighter and, you know, more available, being the best version of you.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Tammy, for coming in and sharing with us. If you could just let folks know where they can get a hold of you. And of course, we'll be supplying all links, but just a couple of the different ways people can work with you as well. That would be fantastic.
Sure. So they can find me through my website, which is energeticapothecary.com. You're also, I think, going to have a campsite link that has different links there. So you can book with me there. I do in person. I'm in North Carolina, right outside of Charlotte. And then I do distance work as well, so via Zoom. And some people find it really hard to believe that this work can be done distantly. You know, and I know that it works. You know, any type of energy work can be done distantly. So everything that I do can actually be done, you know, over Zoom or, you know, over the phone, or we can just set an appointment and I can just work, you know, without us actually ever, you know, connecting like that. On through technology. So you can get me there. There's also a link on my campsite for anybody who's interested in the biofeedback program that I use. This is not something that the regular person could not use. And the developer of this app actually gives a free 14-day trial. So that link is on the campsite where no credit card or anything. You just go in, put your email address in, and you can download the app free for 14 days and play around with it and listen to the frequencies, see what comes up for you. My program is a little bit more in depth as a practitioner. I have a lot of more information than the basic program, but the basic program is for anybody to use. So I would invite you to do that. Energeticapothecary.com. I think, yeah, did I cover everything that you asked there?
Yeah, you got it. You got it. All right. Thank you so much, Tammy, once again for coming and sharing your time with us. I want to thank everyone for being here and just, you know, enjoying this discussion with us. If you did enjoy it, please make sure to share it with someone who could benefit from it. Leave us a review on iTunes or Spotify. Be sure to sign up for the email list for podcast updates, helpful resources. And don't forget, when we invest in the world, we invest in ourselves, the world benefits. Until next week.